My name's Ian Martin, and I'm going to talk to you about my game that my partner and I, Trevor Albertson, and I created. It's called Slayer of Dragons. We're going to start off with the array list. Well, with the difference between an array list, and enum. Array is a list that the length is permanent, and all items on the list are usually the same. An array list is when the list isn't permanent. You can change it a little bit more easily. And items on the list are not the same data types, and that's when you'd want to use an array list. In this example, I'm going to show you what an enum is. And an enum is when items don't change, kind of like an array, and the items must be the same. The only difference is an enum isn't a set list. It can be however long you want it to be. And so in our enum, we used 4 items as an example. And then so we have our list right there. And we go down, and then we have for each one that we made. So for example, sword, we have our sword. It starts with inventory item, and then our sword, and then we go down to set the quantity, which we put as 0 because that's where we want to start with. And then we go on, and then we have shield, same kind of thing, gold, iron, and so forth. And that's what the enum is for. Next, we're going to talk about the for, like a basic loop. So for our example, we're using a for loop. So we have our variable I, which we start at 0. The purpose of that is so that our count starts at 0. So when the program starts counting, it'll just be at 0, and then it goes up, which we have our inventory list dot length -1 I++, which means that it'll go up. So for every time it goes in this loop, it'll go through our entire set of code here, and then at the end, it'll go back at the very beginning, and then now this 0 is going to turn to a 1. And then it keeps going. And so as we continue on, each block of code is repeated, and then it goes up by 1 each time until it goes to the equal length, until the length equals whatever we have set for the inventory, since this is the inventory list. So whatever is set at there, then it'll exit out of the loop once it finds it. The next part that I'm going to talk about is the exception. So an exception is when you want to make it so if you have an error, you're not going to go through your entire program looking for errors. It'll just, when you have an error, the exception will catch it and then decide what it needs to do. The catching and handling of the runtime errors are when a runtime error comes in Java. For example, if someone types in something to where the program doesn't like that, like if it's outside the parameters that you've set, an exception can be used to catch that. So it'll say, if someone types in like they're making, like for our example, we use a horse for our kind of way of transportation, and so they can kind of decide what they want for their horse. Or there's also like the volume of purse, which is what this one is, how big they want their purse to store their money in. We've set it so it's a certain height and diameter, and so so we've set it here that it has to be a height of more than 0, and the diameter, it has to be more than 0 or less than 24. And so it has to be within that point. If it isn't, then it'll say diameter can't be less than 0 or higher than 24. And so that's what the exception does for runtime errors. And then the last one is propagate and catch custom or runtime errors up for the custom program errors. And so that just makes it so you can be handled within the hierarchy. So the next one is the difference between a character stream and the difference between character stream and byte stream. Character stream is when you use, as the name says, it's when you're using characters. In Java, they use Unicode, which is more so the characters that we use, like the alphabet, A through Z, numbers, punctuation, those kind of things. That's all Unicode. Unicode is kind of like a standard character system that people use all over the world, and just whatever language they use, that's Unicode. So character stream is using the Unicode, whatever's on your keyboard, and it uses it in 16 bits. And so when you're using it, you're actually doing 2 different bytes per you're using 2 different bytes at a time. So it codes in the 2 different bytes, whereas byte stream is using 8-bit system to where it's writing in binary. So it's using zeros and ones to write in the files. So finally, our main portion of our game is to go through and slay the dragon. You go through and you have to start at this beginning where you don't have anything in your inventory, and you go to a resource scene where you collect the different gold and iron to make sword or earn money and those sort of things up until you fight the dragon. Unfortunately, my partner and I weren't able to finish the entire game, and so I don't have an example to share with what the finished game looks like. But it was the least of what I can say is it was a learning experience. Having a partner really helped me to learn about the different aspects of coding, to where we could talk about and throw ideas back and forth with each other. And it was also made coding a lot more fun, in my opinion. And so this is what we have and what we've gotten typed out. So thank you for our instruction.